Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we are featuring a rather good looking watch and new release from the brand Longines. This is the new Ultra-Chron Classic, and I really do like this watch. I kind of feel like I know it because a few years ago I actually serviced a 1973 model for one of my subscribers, Hector's dad, and it was beautiful. The watch was absolutely stunning. I really enjoyed working on that one. And to be fair, so when I look at this, it is so faithful to the original design. I think it really does look good. The Ultra-Chron basically was released as a range of watches in the late 60s, and it was in the pursuit of timekeeping excellence. And that's what this one does as well. But we'll talk more about that in a minute. But before I get too far into this, I've got to say a massive thank you to the team over at First Class Watches of Kenilworth for allowing me to review this piece. Lots of cool, interesting brands. Say many you will know, but there are going to be some you don't know. So if you're in the Midlands area, I'd strongly recommend popping into the shop. If you're a little bit further afield, well, don't worry, I'll leave a link in the description and at the bottom of the page now. All I ask, if you do contact them, please mention the channels. It really would help. So let's talk sizes. It's available in two different sizes. I have opted for the 40mm model here, but you can also get it in 37mm, which will please many people as well. The thickness of this model is coming at 11.2. The lug to lug is about 47.2mm, and strangely, the bracelet size on this one is coming in at 21mm. Now, the dial. The dial at first glance looks really kind of, quite simple really, but it's when you get up close and you realise the detail on there, it just looks so good. That sunburst effect looks really, really good. And as you turn it around, you capture different hues because of that. It looks, I think, really rather well done. The applied hour markers just glint with the light. They really do capture the light in so many different ways and, throw it back at you. I like that. The hands themselves, beautifully polished. Now, the black line on here isn't lume, nor is there any lume actually on this watch, but let's face it, this isn't really a dive watch. If you want a dive watch with this kind of movement, there is one available. I have reviewed it, but one thing I did mention was a little bit on the chunky side, where they've gone for the slim, everyday kind of, dare I say, sports dress watch, that kind of thing. It's definitely an everyday watch, this one. It looks fantastic for it. We have the date over here at 3 o'clock position, which is beautifully framed and very well polished, as to are the applied logo up there at the top. And as we come down to the 6 o'clock, we have the Longines Ultra-Chron logo there, which has been with this model ever since day one in the 60s. So even the one the 73 model I serviced had that as well. As too did it have these crosshairs. In fact, it's almost a carbon copy of this very dial. The only difference I noticed is on the vintage model, round about from here, it dived down a little bit. The dial wasn't completely flat. It would kind of sculpt down, which I must say is a very nice touch, but you don't see that so much these days. But overall, I think it is superb. And the one big thing, which is obviously a major point with the Ultra-Chron, is the glide of that second hand. Now, seeing it in isolation here, you may not appreciate that. But if I put it, say, side by side to a Seiko, now the big difference is this hand is running at 10 beats per second, which is almost, is pretty well as fluid as you get until you get up to like a quartz operated spring drive. But there again, that's more a quartz watch. But mechanical, that is pretty well as smooth as it gets. The Seiko, which beats at 6 beats per second, when you see them side by side, you can see it's more juddery. It's definitely, you can see it hesitate more. Even though technically they are counting the same amount of seconds, it's just doing it in a more abrupt way, if that makes sense. When I put it side by side with a Rolex OP, you can see that is slowly getting, the difference is getting a little bit smaller. The Rolex and most other watches, to be fair, are beaten at 8 beats per second, whereas this is 10. And to be fair, the new Air King, Land King is it, from Rolex actually now beats at 10 beats per second also. So you do get a far more fluid glide of that second hand going around there. And once you see it, you start looking at other watches and you start seeing that they're not quite as smooth as what you get actually on this movement. And it is, yeah, just very, very special. As we come past that, we have a beautiful domed sapphire crystal. I believe there's AR on this one. You know, it's got a nice box section to it. You do get a little bit of distortion as you see the hand come round towards it, and I do like that. I think it looks really good. The case itself, they have kept almost original to the actual sort of like, you know, the original 70s model. Is slightly different. This one is fully polished. We do have radial brushwork, well, more like a sunburst pattern coming out from the center for the actual fixed bezel itself. We do have a standard long running vertical brushwork on top of the lugs, but the rest is simply polished. And like the original, we do have the sign crown here. That's one thing I would say is the crown on this, it fits the watch perfectly, but it makes it a little bit hard to actually manually wind a watch because it is ever so small. Now, it is a, what do you call it? It's not a screw down crown. The watch does feature 50 meters of water resistance to it, but I say it's not actually a screw down crown. So you're right getting the watch wet, to be fair. As we pull it out, we go straight into date set, and then when we come out, obviously you go into hack mode there and time set. So no, overall fantastic. As you come round to the back, unfortunately you do get a solid case back on this, which was true with the original also. But underneath there, you have their new L836 movement. So that's got 52 hours of power reserve on there, silicon balance, and a 25 joule, it's a 25 joule movement back there. I believe, looking at the architecture of it, it looks like it's originally based on what could be a 2824. It does look very, very similar. Now, I put this one on the time grapher, and I don't normally do this. Where I actually do a normal single position shot for the video, basically I thought, well, what the heck? Technically, this is, it's not just chronometer set, it is actually higher than that, but we'll talk about it in a second. So what I did, I put it in the standard position. I think it was running, I don't know, 1 second, 1.5 seconds. And then I rotated it in all the different positions, which you would do if you were going to set the watch up to be truly accurate. I've seen many people give you one level shot and they'll give you a, you know, a reading of what the timekeeping is. But unless you try it in all the different positions, you never truly know. It gives a good estimation, but it is more an estimation. So this one, when I tried it in all the different positions, it gave a doubter. So that's just the difference in timekeeping across the board. I think it was like 4 seconds, which is outstanding. That is a very, very accurate timepiece, and it is all down to this absolutely stunning movement. So where many watches, like you see the Rolex in the background there, that will be chronometer spec. So basically, there are a few different boards, Metas, you've got chronometer spec, you've got Timelab. Well, Timelab is a company which actually checked this one. Now, the big difference between them and the standard CO SC specs is when they get them, they take them out, you get just movements, and they check just for movement on its own. But what Timelab do is actually check the watch, because believe it or not, when you actually service a watch and you then put that in the case, you'll notice an amplitude change. It can sometimes affect also the rate of the watch. The rate is what the watch gains or loses per day in seconds. And so this way, what Timelab does is actually better. And to give you a sort of like something which makes a little bit more sense in layman's terms, is technically to get a chronometer spec movement with COSC, you're allowed up to 10 seconds a day variation. So you're allowed -4 to +6, Well, Timelab only allow 8.5 seconds per day. So technically it is a little bit more kind of intense. No, let's say not intense, but actually more realistic, because the watch is as it is supplied to you, not the movement and then recased, because anything can happen when it's recased. So, you know, it's a very, very good system on this. As we now look at a bracelet, and again, they've kept the bracelet to what looks like the original kind of look. You've got the polished center and these brush links there. The only thing is, I've noticed it is a push pin system, but I suppose it does match the original more. The clasp is a little slightly different because you had Longines written across it lengthways, and now you don't. But one thing they have done, which will please many people, obviously nice fold over clasp there, but you do also have micro adjustment, and as you can see, it comes out there. So, and what's nice is it's the true kind of look of the bracelet, where other companies, you know, they can have some pretty nasty also like extension ones there. But as you can see here, how many clicks do we have? So that's at full extension. 1, 2, 3. You got 3 clicks. That should be enough on this style of watch. Overall, I really, really like this one. Let's put it on my wrist so you got an idea how it looks. Let's zoom out here. Quick wrist check. I'm still wearing the Rec watch before I send it back. And that watch is simply superb. I really do like that one. And Bob has got my old Rolex OP39 Great Red there, which is you don't see many of them really at all. One thing I would say, well, let's put this on wrist first. My wrist size is 7¼ inches, which works out to around about 18.5 centimeters. And there you go there. I really, really like this watch. You've got to see it and get it in your hands before you can really appreciate just how cool this watch actually is. It is available on a leather strap also. Now, one thing I would say is, don't normally do this, but a couple of the comments I had on the shorts, many people like saying, what's the price, what's the model, show more of a sweep in seconds and all this. But you got to remember, the shorts videos are exactly what they say. They're just a short video to show you what's going to come up on the channel. So that's why I don't include a load of blurb. I normally just put what model it is and coming soon. So that's one thing. Another one, I think one of the Nick James watches mentioned, why don't you just buy a vintage model and then you save yourself a fortune? Because I believe the retail price of this is £3,250. But remember, guys, that is before any kind of discount. You know, expect to get, I don't know, around about 10-15% off, something like that. So, you know, it's not going to be as low as what he mentioned. You know, you can pick up used models for between, I think he said £500 and £800, which technically I kind of looked and I couldn't find any on a bracelet, but I did find some which were like 600, but they'd be imported from Japan. I don't know if there's an import charge on goods from Japan. Plus, you've got to think to yourself, your watch will probably need a service on it. You don't know what you're buying when you're buying a vintage watch, especially at this age where you're talking the original models are 50 years old now. Simple things like the barrel, you know, you can't just replace a mainspring quite often. It's actually a fixed barrel, so it's what's called a barrel complete. I found some of they're getting harder to find, and I was looking at some, they're between 50 and 80 pounds for a barrel complete, and that's for one item. So you might be buying a used watch, great for someone like myself who can strip them apart and service them, but not so good if you've got to take it to a watchmaker and he suddenly tells you, or he or she suddenly tells you that you could be spending up to, I don't know, £500 on a service to get it up to kind of scratch. The other one, I think Samuel Jackson, he mentioned about the long lug to lugs and, well, the straight lug to lug, and I do know where he's coming from there, but they have kept kind of faithful to the original design. But I do agree, if they could have just bent this down that a little bit, it would have been better. But there again, I suppose, if that is such a concern, you can always go for the 37mm model, as that would be kind of, you know, maybe more appropriate to actually the wearer. But anyway, guys, I'm going to leave you to it that, but most importantly, you'll stay safe out there and let me know what you think of this one. All the best. Take care. Bye.